Good morning and welcome to Kentucky Newsmakers from WKYT. I'm Bill Bryant. Great to have you here. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman has become the first candidate to announce she's running for governor in 2027. Since her announcement, Coleman has kept a busy schedule, has talked to groups and attended some functions, but this is her first sit-down interview. Lieutenant Governor Coleman is joining us. We appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Why did you decide now is the time to launch a bid for governor?
You know, after going through 2 statewide campaigns, I learned that the earlier you get in, the better infrastructure you can build and the better campaign you can have. And so this felt like the right time for me. It was post the General Assembly, pre-Derby, pre-summer, and I know there are always lots of races going on, but to be able to meet people where they are and to hear from Kentuckians, it takes some early planning.
Do you plan to attend the Derby?
I do.
You'll go as a candidate for governor. Will that be a different field?
Well, actually, I'll go as lieutenant governor.
Okay.
In my official capacity. Yeah. So my job is to present the trophy at Oaks, and then I'll also attend the Derby.
You were a teacher and a basketball coach before politics, and you've said that education is a top priority for you. What does that mean you would champion if you get the opportunity?
Well, I think one of the huge missed opportunities that we have in Kentucky is pre-K for all. To me, that is one of the most important things we can do, not just for our kids, but for our economy, for companies, for families. I mean, it is a win-win all the way around. So I definitely think that's one of the most important things that we can do. But also when you look at our schools, you know, it's always a challenge to make sure they have the resources they need to do what we need them to do.
The legislature, though, you know, has consistently told Governor Beshear the pre-K is not on their radar or agenda. Do you think they would give you a different answer?
I think the answer they need to give is to the voters. I mean, that is something that even Republican primary voters, it's the number 2 issue for Republican primary voters. And so to me, I think this is something that is not partisan, that you can reach across the aisle and get this done, knowing that it's going to ultimately help the economy. And so I think that voters will ultimately demand it, and I'm ready to work with anybody, no matter who they are, to make sure that our kids have access to pre-K for all.
When you said you're for more funding for education, what needs to be increased? Well,
you know, you can look at teacher raises, for example. You know, we were able to deliver on raises for state employees, law enforcement, social workers, all absolutely well-earned, long overdue, and deserved. The only group that's been intentionally left out of this is our educators. And I just believe that if we want young people to look at education as a potential career path, they have to be able to trust that their government will pay them what they're worth.
Since you say intentional, you do believe that the General Assembly intends for the teachers to not have an adequate raise?
Well, in every budget since the governor and I have been in office, we've included teacher raises, and in every budget they've taken it out. But law enforcement made it through, state employees made it through, social workers made it through. That seems kind of intentional to me.
You'd like to see it, in other words, it would be an appropriation itself for those raises.
Absolutely.
You have also said that health care is very important to you. We know Republicans have criticized the expansion of eligibility under Governor Beshear, and the claim he has not proposed a sustainable way to fund it. Do you disagree with that?
I think at the very least, we should certainly be able to know that Kentuckians can see a doctor when they're sick, or can take their kids to the doctor when they're sick. Kids who go to school sick are not going to learn. Folks who go to work sick are probably not going to be as productive as they should be if they're even able to go. And so at the very least, we should be able to increase access to health care and make sure that people can see a doctor when they're sick.
And you would propose legislation to do that?
Absolutely.
What did you learn in some of the disaster situations while you were Lieutenant Governor? We've had horrible tornadoes, horrible flooding, people displaced and distressed, and many times you were there on the ground. What did you learn?
Well, one of the interesting things that I learned from the Lexington Fire Department, actually, they were acting as a kind of like a headquarters in Breathitt County, and they brought me in and they said, hey, listen, we've been trying to get this legislation passed since 2011. It was after the West Liberty tornadoes, to try to create what's called an urban search and rescue team in Kentucky, or a USAR team. We were one of 7 states that didn't have it. Every state around us had one, and I looked at them and I said, well, where's ours? And they said, well, we don't have one. That's what we want to talk to you about. So I sat down with the first responders and worked with both parties, both branches of government, and ultimately we were able to get that piece of legislation filed, passed unanimously in both houses, and signed into law by the governor. So now our natural disaster response is a statewide coordinated process. It's going to be more effective, more efficient, and it's going to save more lives.
How do you see, if you got the opportunity, how do you see running an administration in terms of the people you would appoint, the priorities that you would have out there? How would Kentucky be different if there were to be a governor, Jacqueline Coleman?
Yeah, so I think the priorities of the administration should be the priorities of Kentuckians. And so I've traveled the state for 2 years as lieutenant governor and listened to them about what they're looking for in their next governor. I've traveled the state for 6.5 years as someone who was able to show up in the best of times to celebrate ribbon cuttings and job creation, but also in the toughest times, like you said, with the natural disasters. And so listening to Kentuckians, showing up for them in every scenario, and delivering results is something that I will be focused on as governor, just as I have been as lieutenant governor. But I think ultimately everything comes back to education. If we want to build a better economy, we need better school systems. If we want to make sure that we're solving the biggest challenges that we face, we're going to have to look to education to help us do that. But schools can't do it on their own. They have to make sure that they have partners outside of their walls, and that is the private sector, nonprofits, and state government.
Are you ready for the politics of this? In other words, the criticisms that will come. The Republicans have quickly come after you. The Attorney General has made a statement on social media, she will never be governor. Are you ready for that, for the daily dose of that?
Yeah, well, I will say this. I was a government teacher, so I love government. I hate politics. I think most people are really tired of all of that, and so I'm not going to be somebody who does that because I don't like to be treated that way, and so I'm going to try not to treat other people that way, but it's also a distraction from what we should actually be focused on.
Do you agree with some of the criticisms that Governor Beshear leveled at the University of Kentucky this week that apparently resulted in some things happening?
Yeah, well, you're not going to find anyone more pro-education than me. But I also know that when our schools make decisions, whether it's a university or a K-12 school, those decisions have to be justifiable, they have to be transparent, and they have to be made publicly so that there can be accountability. And so I think once this issue was raised, obviously there was enough public response to it that some decisions were changed. And so I think it worked the way it should have.
Would you be a continuation of the Beshear administration, or would it be a different direction?
I would be a continuation of the best parts, and I would go in a different direction in the places where we need to. But
are there some things you differ with the governor on?
Well, I actually think that the governor and I have been a great team because we are different people. We both grew up in different places. We both have different careers, and so we brought different life experiences and perspectives to the table. And so, you look at recruiting a basketball team. You don't want to recruit 10 of the same person. You need to be able to fill your roster with people that can complement each other. And so I think ultimately that's why we've been the best team that we are.
So there have been times that you disagreed, you told him so, but then ultimately publicly supported his decision. Fair to say?
That's fair to say.
We know that another member of the administration, Senior Advisor Rocky Adkins, is looking at getting in the race. You also have very different styles. How might that play out?
Well, I think the thing that I've been very conscious of, especially lately, is it seems like every time you turn on the TV, you see people running for office and all they're talking about is other politicians. And I'm just not going to be that kind of a person because, again, the race will be what it will be, but ultimately I'm just going to stay focused on Kentuckians and the things that they care about.
You're ready to go now? You're already, you are in this race for 2027 at this point.
We are in this race. We launched on Monday, and I have been all over this state, more than usual, this week, meeting voters where they are.
Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, thanks. We hope you'll come back as the issue set kind of, pans out there. We'll see you along the trail.
Yeah,
all right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Stay with us, everybody, on Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll be back in just a moment, and we'll look at what a week it was at the University of Kentucky. We'll be right back. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. It was a busy, newsy week at UK. University of Kentucky leadership is defending its decision to appoint a new law school dean. It comes after backlash from some students, faculty, and from Governor Andy Beshear. Governor Beshear made a statement Tuesday saying he was concerned with management and decision-making at UK. The appointment of U.S. District Judge Gregory Van Tatenhove as the law school's new dean was one of those concerns. On Thursday, WKYT talked to the provost and to Judge Van Tatenhove about the appointment, and here's what they had to say.
This has been a consistent and reliable process. I would say we had principles. We made sure that we maintained the integrity of the process. We made sure that we were paying attention to what was critical and important for Kentucky.
Great conversations so far with faculty who had a strong disagreement in what they thought was the best profile for the university, but they've been constructive. I am absolutely confident that we're going to work together to build consensus, be transparent, and move my alma mater forward.
Concerns were also raised about a new position for Athletics Director Mitch Barnhart following his retirement this summer. Barnhart says he will no longer take on that role. In a statement released this week, saying in part, quote, "Work has already begun on the initiative, but recently it has become apparent now is not the right time and we should never stand in the way of what we deem best. The world of sports is dynamic and ever-changing, and it is my hope that this initiative will continue in the future." President Eli Capilouto says Barnhart was concerned that the discussion about his new role was becoming a distraction. University says it will work with Barnhart to decide on the terms of his departure. So all of this transpired following our recorded interview with UK President Dr. Eli Capilouto that we did early in the week for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. Our wide-ranging interview did discuss Mitch Barnhart, but we touched on a number of other topics, including the results of the legislative session, new initiatives on campus, and more. Here is a portion of our conversation. First, to this encouraging note that you sent out to campus, and I know that you wanted to be in a position to be able to do that because there had been proposals to cut higher education. In the end, lawmakers decided to continue the present level of funding.
Yes, sir. The House, in its original budget, had cuts in the first year that would have amounted about $13 million. And in the second year of the biennium, it would have increased to $25 million. So I'm very grateful after many discussions, both with House and Senate leadership at the end, they maintained our funding and made available something that's important to a campus that is as large and old as ours, $34 million of asset preservation funds. We have a lot of older buildings that need some tender loving care. We have infrastructure that you can't necessarily see, but it is essential to maintain a safe, modern campus.
You also noted some possible initiatives on campus that are coming out of the legislative session, possibly a civic center where political issues and government could be discussed. This, of course, is the backdrop of the anti-DEI policies that have come out of the federal and state government in recent years.
I think the intent of this legislation is to allow us to develop curricular courses that broaden the understanding of government and how essential it is to a functioning democracy. And at the same time, we need to dedicate more attention to providing students that skill set to engage in constructive civic dialogue.
How much is artificial intelligence already a part of campus? How much will it be in the near future?
It starts long before our students arrive on campus now. We're uncovering. What is powerful to me is to see the productive and positive ways it's being used. From students who have developed a tutoring system in the College of Medicine for all their fellow students. They're applying for a patent here. It allows faculty to understand what people know, what their students know, what gaps they may have. So to see those kinds of things. Had a student that developed something to help his rural county. So that's very positive. We have a campus-wide initiative underway to engage people. We've already certainly introduced this in UK healthcare involving how our physicians can more efficiently and completely take notes after they interact with patients. That would be just one example.
It's ever present, and the university, it sounds like, is committed to trying to make the most positive use of it possible going forward.
Of course, and like many things we've been able to do, we look for strong partners that share our values. We have developed a partnership now with Microsoft. They'll be able to add, a presence on campus, more educational opportunities. We're excited about that too.
For those outside looking in at the University of Kentucky, they know that there are some changes going on. There's a new business model, many services now provided by an LLC. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. We're able to put many of our growing entities under one structure. That is helpful when you have grown, as we have, in acquiring a hospital in Ashland, Kentucky, a hospital in Moorhead, Kentucky, St. Clair. Each place needs to be nimble and flexible, but at the same time take advantage of putting an umbrella over certain services we would like to integrate. We have to do more and be more for Kentucky on any given day. We have 2,000 job openings. More and more people are turning to us for education, research, healthcare, and service. How we can most efficiently do that, remain accountable first to our Board of Trustees, remains paramount.
Those people who are now employed by the LLC, are they still government employees?
They're still employees of the University of Kentucky, and the employees at King's Daughters in Ashland are employees of King's Daughters, which is part of the University of Kentucky.
So you're comfortable with this? I mean, some say it's a little bit of reinventing the wheel, but you're comfortable with the way this is now going?
I'm comfortable with it.
You're aware there are a lot of questions out there, right?
There certainly are,
yeah.
And we are committed to answering all those questions. This is not about job elimination in any way.
The legislature charged UK, U of L, and EKU with helping solve the state's shortage of healthcare professionals. How do you anticipate going about that?
First of all, I want to applaud all those on our campus and on our satellite campuses that have made incredible progress. I think in 2015 we graduated 500 physicians. This year, over 800. In a few years, because we're expanding our 2-year program in Moorhead, our 4-year programs in Northern Kentucky and Bowling Green, we'll soon be at 1,000 graduates a year. We're also able to expand what we do on campus because the legislature provided us the funds to build a health education building where we're bringing together 4 colleges of our academic health sciences units. Well, today, when you are treated, it's seldom by one discipline. We're going to have simulation centers where our young future professionals will be working together on how they can best care for Kentuckians. And we continue to grow the number of health professions, graduates, and through direction by the General Assembly, which we appreciate, we're going to find more ways to do that.
So expansion both at Chandler Hospital in Lexington and at these healthcare facilities throughout the region and state.
We started 2 4-year medical campuses in Northern Kentucky and Bowling Green. We've had a 2-year medical school program in Moorhead for well over a decade. We're going to expand those.
UK has acquired some property, and you're expecting to develop on campus a sports district and an arts district, and so there's going to be some transformation there?
Always transformation at the University of Kentucky so that we can serve more Kentuckians and our students in powerful ways. First, the arts district. The Bill Gatton Foundation made a gift of $150 million. We will redevelop really an entire several blocks, and it will be a place for our music and arts majors, but more importantly, those who participate in our student symphonies, our bands, those kinds of things. Most of them are not arts or music majors. But by participating in those programs, we think they're going to be better engineers, physicians, lawyers. So it's a powerful part of sort of understanding what it means to be a human, and I'm so pleased that the Gatton Foundation is supporting.
Will that include a performing arts center?
It includes venues.
Yeah. Singletary Center will remain.
The Singletary Center, we have yet to determine, because we have just entered the negotiations with potential architects and all, so we haven't done all the final planning, but we have several years to go here,
all right.
Bill.
Now sports, and we know that you got that corner down there at Euclid Avenue and Rose, and then there's talk of that there will be all the way back toward Commonwealth some development for a sports district or venue, or how do you describe it?
We have looked around the country and seen that there are some imaginative, creative developments going on around athletic facilities. We are fortunate that we have land around Kroger Field that lends itself to sort of multi-use development. We're early in that planning, but you can imagine the potential for arts, parking, medical facilities, hotel, conference center, those kinds of things.
Safe to say campus will look different in a decade or so.
I hope so.
Did you anticipate the landscape of athletics becoming what it has? And look at, I mean, you've been in charge since 2011. It was a whole different way of doing business, and it is business now, with players being paid and bidded on, and it's difficult to put a roster together if you don't have the money to attract the players to campus and so on. Did you see that coming?
Well, you certainly saw steps in this direction. When I arrived at the University of Kentucky, we wanted to provide stipends to our student athletes and really got into it for a few months. The NCAA decided that to level the playing field on competition, we shouldn't be doing those things. Time and time again, this morphed into what I think the NCAA and other entities were trying to do, which was maintain a level playing field in competition. In time, eventually with the Supreme Court decision, it was ruled that this was an antitrust violation, that we were limiting opportunities for student athletes. We then had to go through a long period of negotiations with lawyers who represented our student athletes. We finally agreed to over $2 billion in back payments for those student athletes that didn't have the opportunity to participate in this period to earn revenue. And then we had to develop a model going forward. It's complicated, it's complex. We're still working on how to fully define the rules and the compliance mechanisms to make sure we stay within the guardrails. You saw it all coming, but putting together the infrastructure to oversee it is still a work in progress, and it's difficult.
Dance Blue raised $2.4 million over the weekend. You have to be amazed at what these students can do on campus, and give you a little bit of a hint about how they might give back in the future.
It's not just the weekend. They work all year.
Right.
And besides raising the funds, they connect in so many ways. When I talk to the students who have participated, their eyes have been opened to different career paths. They have developed skills from fundraising to marketing to communications that they'll use throughout life. So it's a very powerful experience.
You come in here and do these interviews and you're on it, you know. Do you anticipate continuing to lead the university for a long period of time?
Bill, let me tell you about my weekend and my day. So late Friday night, I go down to Gatton Park, and they have the Peonies exhibit. It's beautiful, and it's teeming with people. And the Gatton Foundation made that gift possible. My wife was part of that, and we walked through that park in deep gratitude. earlier that evening, 100th anniversary of the Gatton College of Business and Economics. I just had lunch at our Gatton Student Center Champions kitchen there, teeming with people. And then to think that an arts district is on its way. That's what I realize every day, with the deepest of gratitude to Kentuckians like Mr. Gatton and many more who are not visible, but have been part of transforming this campus and what we're able to do. I just feel fortunate to have been a part of it.
You want to keep going?
Well, they pay me to keep going, so I better not stop.
I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And stay with us. We'll wrap up Kentucky Newsmakers in a moment. As always, we really appreciate you being with us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. Remind you, stay up to date on all of the campaign coverage on WKYT News and WKYT.com. We hope you make it a good week ahead.